Not setting dates. I am not prophesying. I am not predicting the future. What I do want to let you know is what are the patterns. Like any detective looking at a crime scene, trying to solve the mystery, we want to be able to unlock the key to what is God trying to tell us. Let's look at God's patterns. First off, we need to understand the concept of the Shemitah year. What the Shemitah year is every 7th year, the land in Israel was to rest. Well, what happened? They did not let the land rest for a long time. And that's why they had to spend 70 years in Babylon. 70 times 7 is 490 years. For 490 years, Israel did not keep the Shemitah year. Therefore, God said, you're going to be in Babylon for 70 years. So significant, that Shemitah cycle. Because all too often, we think we know better than God. God knows what's best for us. He tells us we need rest, and He tells us when to rest. But all too often, we're so interested in, look what I can do, look what I can accomplish, that we don't listen to God, and then we suffer the consequences. And that's what happened with Israel. In 1994, there was the Shoemaker-Levy comet. And if you remember, that's where the planet Jupiter was pummeled by 21 fragments. Well, guess when that happened? On the biblical calendar. See, this is why you need to know the biblical calendar, so you know if this was a God event, was God signaling something to us, or was it just so happened coincidence that these 21 fragments hit Jupiter? It happened on the 9th day of the month of Av. Again, the same day that the spies brought the bad report. So here, it happened on the 9th of Av, and guess what the Torah portion was that weekend? The Torah portion that weekend was the first few chapters of Deuteronomy, which in Hebrew is known as Devarim. Translated into English means, these are the words. So God was saying on the weekend of the 9th of Av, which is a day of judgment, in a Shemitah year, which is a year of judgment, here these 21 fragments are pummeling Jupiter. What I believe that signified was 7 times 3 is 21. So that meant the next 3 Shemitah years were going to be times of judgment. In 2001, right at Rosh Hashanah, which is the first day of the 7th month, 7 years after the Shoemaker-Levy comet, the Dow falls 7%. It was the largest drop in history at that time.
Completely wiped out. And the NASDAQ, everything and more has been completely wiped out.
The next Shemitah year is 2008. What happened on Rosh Hashanah 2008, which was another Shemitah year? The Dow fell 7%.
Let's talk about the speed with which we are watching this market deteriorate.
We're red everywhere, essentially, down by 4-5%.
We're down over 16%. Dow at the same time has fallen about 18%.
The stock market is now down 21%.
Because we're now down 43%.
What in the world is happening on Wall Street?
2-year no yields went from 190 to 166 in the blink of an eye.
All the news articles said it was like a $700 billion loss on a failed $700 billion bailout in the 7th month of the biblical calendar. This is huge, people, when you see the pattern. Now, my question is this. If you look at this pattern, 7 years later is 2015. What is coming on Rosh Hashanah 2015? I don't know for sure. I can't predict. But when I look at the pattern, when you look at current events, look at history, how the government keeps shutting down, and the big economic trouble if we default on America's debt. I'm telling you, I really believe, and I could be wrong, but I would put there's a high probability that this is the third strike. This is when you're going to see the global economic collapse in 2015 between the total, the solar eclipses that are happening in 2015 and the final blood moon in 2015 on the Feast of Tabernacles. You have Rosh Hashanah with a partial solar eclipse. I believe this is going to be, or could be, high probability of the global economic collapse of the world, not just the United States.
Motion 10%.
And we're not getting the bid wanted. We're not getting the stop trading, and we see where the buyers are.
So what is the other pattern that we see that these eclipses could portend? Well, it's the obvious one. What did we have in 1948? A biblically prophetic war. What did we have in 67? A biblically prophetic war. So what could possibly happen sometime between 2014, 2015, and I'm not setting dates, it could happen anywhere within these next 2 years that we're in right now. We could see a biblically prophetic war take place. There are three that I know of right off the tip of my tongue. You have the Isaiah 17 war, where Damascus is destroyed. Look at what's going on in history right now around Syria and the rebel army and the fighting that's going on and the chemical weapons that are there. Not only that, you have the biological weapons. And here Isaiah 17 says Damascus is going to be obliterated and uninhabited as a city. That's never happened before in the history of Damascus. The Ezekiel 38 war is the Gog-Magog war. This is where all the nations come against Israel at one time. The Psalm 83 war is more smaller. It's specific, where there are certain Arab nations that are surrounding Israel that are coming against them. And so I believe that what we're seeing here with these solar, lunar eclipses, these blood moons, are telling us in the next 2 years, and I'm not saying any particular day or any particular date, but I believe strongly in the next 2 years, we could definitely see a global war, especially involving Israel, as well as economic collapse.